C-Class is one of the most important products in Mercedes' lineup, especially so even in India, where many first-time Mercedes buyers are buying a C-Class. Well, we've seen what's happened with the S and the E-Class, which have shown that Mercedes has really hit their stride. And so there are a lot of expectations for this, the all-new C-Class. And from the looks of it, it's headed in the right direction. It looks more grown-up, almost like a baby S-Class.
Staring at the C-Class on your screen, it will be really hard to distinguish it from the S, unless you look at the details. When you glance at the face, the same sophistication is evident. It also sports full LED headlamps as an option. On our test car is the 2-bar grille instead of the traditional radiator grille that hints at something younger. Then when you gaze at the taut and sculpted sides, you get the same S-Class's sense of grace and dynamism. Then let your gaze linger over the beautiful details that complete the fluid S-Class-like design at the rear. But look closer and you'll spot that those dual exhaust low down on this 2.2-litre diesel car are mere dummies. But when you look at the car in the flesh, the size will be immediately apparent, because the C obviously is much smaller than the S-Class. But in terms of attitude, it isn't lacking on the outside or on the inside. The pop-out screen and the air vents on the dash remind you of the A and the B-Class. But the way the wood, the chrome and the technology cascade elegantly from the dashboard is just so lavish and refreshing.
This cabin just feels leagues ahead of what the previous generation C-Class used to offer. It just feels so rich and polished when you look at the design, the quality of materials. It just feels, well, very grown up and really very rich.
Okay, it isn't perfect. It feels a bit plasticky in places, like on the lower dash or the knobs for the aircon. But on the upside, it has a massive equipment list with lots of options for you to yearn and earn for. Like the S, it also has adjustable ambient lights. There's a Burmester sound system and a central screen that comes in 2 sizes. The larger one also packs a Wi-Fi hotspot and a 360-degree camera as an option. You also get an active park assist system. Making its debut here is a touchpad, which makes using the command menus really easy. Completing the futuristic tech fest is the heads-up display. So this new C-Class is definitely better equipped than the outgoing car. Also, in terms of size, the W205 is bigger. It's longer by 95mm, wider by 40, and its wheelbase has been stretched by 80mm. And that has a direct impact over here.
The backseat experience, that's improved too. You can see knee room is nice. The front seats have been scooped out intelligently to give you more room. Another nice touch is the backseat pocket, which sits almost flush. You don't realize it's there until you pull it open. Well, headroom is pretty decent too, as you can see. Under-thigh support could have been a bit better, but you still have this big transmission tunnel in the middle. So if you have a third passenger, that will be a little bit uncomfortable. But that aside, the seats themselves well scooped out and nicely padded.
Of course, the rear passengers are cooled off with dedicated air vents, and there's an optional sunroof to brighten things up. So while the backseat is richer than the outgoing car, its lack of under-thigh support can be a bit of a sore point. But what might be an even bigger sore point, if it trickles down to India, is the lack of a spare wheel or even a space saver. But here on the beautiful roads of France, it wasn't going to keep me from getting behind the wheel. And I was focusing on the familiar 2143cc diesel motor.
Now the motor we are driving is the C220 CDI, and although this isn't an all-new motor, Mercedes has thoroughly reworked it, and it is as a result quieter, smoother, and we expect this to be one of the hot sellers with the C-Class in India.
Its 168 bhp of power and 40.8 kilograms of torque are similar to the outgoing C220 CDI. As before, peak torque is available low down, spread from 1400 rpm to 2800 rpm, which gives it an obvious advantage.
Now this motor's real strength is its everyday kind of drivability. You just need to use light taps of the throttle to keep it going. It feels smooth and silent as it does that. It's got good responsiveness, low down in the rev range, and it pulls cleanly too. But it's just that it's not a motor that you enjoy pushing 100%.
One good reason to not push this motor is that it becomes really quite gruff once you head past the 3000 rpm mark. The 7G-tronic gearbox has also been tweaked, but it feels happier delivering easy, smooth shifts rather than quick, excited shifts. Choose the aggressive modes from the agility control menu and you will have a bit more pep in the proceedings. The software adjusts throttle response, gear shift points, steering feel, and the suspension setup. The biggest factor though is the air suspension, which is offered in this segment for the very first time as an option. The air springs along with the continuously variable dampers fine-tune the ride as the road surface changes. So when you switch to comfort mode, there is a definite difference.
Now with these optional air springs, the ride quality is really very soft. In fact, at highway speeds it was feeling a bit floaty. But for Indian traffic conditions, which will be low speeds and broken roads, I think it will be a great formula.
And the well-insulated cabin just multiplies the sense of being cocooned. You can actually whisper to your passengers. So how is the new C-Class to drive? First, the genetics. The C-Class is now made almost 50% from aluminium, which means it is lighter by about 100 kilos, but at the same time it is much stiffer than before. And it uses an innovative 4-link front suspension that offers greater agility, while at the rear it uses a 5-link setup. And when you use the sportier drive modes, you do get a more involving edge.
Now I really haven't been able to explore the dynamic abilities of the C-Class here, but on the whole this does feel like a car that's light on its feet, willing to change directions, so it should be fun to drive, but maybe not as thrilling as the competition.
In Sport and Sport Plus, the suspension feels more tied down. Body control is tighter. The steering also adds a bit of weight. But on our drive, it never really felt scintillating. Sadly though, when the C-Class arrives in India early next year, it may not feature the air suspension setup altogether. Nonetheless, the C will be a very serious threat to its European competition.
So first, the criticisms. The C-Class isn't as fun to drive as the 3, but nonetheless this is clearly a more agile, a more involving car to drive. And the backseat may not be wow, but it is better than before. And on the whole, the C-Class is clearly on a roll. This is a beautifully balanced package. It has this young, youthful exterior, while at the end of the day, this is clearly a more Mercedes C-Class, which means it's richer, more comfortable, building on the core values of the brand. So, at the end of the day, it's clear that the C-Class has grown up by a huge amount and it's raring to go.